at such a, at the right time. So thank you everyone and welcome to today's session. Before I start sharing the agenda and telling you what's in store for all of us in the next 90 minutes, trust all of you are doing well and so are your loved ones. I think the last couple of months we've realized how family health and personal safety is paramount. So please keep it that way and keep yourself safe and healthy. All right. So with that, we'll begin today's session on Dress to Impress. And let me start by introducing myself. I've been conducting sessions for the Work Better Club for some time now. But for some of you who would have been new for today's session, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Shaina Malhotra, and I'm going to be the facilitator for the next 90 minutes. And I come with an overall experience of over 20 years. I belong from Delhi, born and brought up in Delhi itself. And I've been an ex-banker. I was working with Citibank for almost 15 and a half years. I was the assistant vice president heading sales for Pan India in my stint with Citi. I took a leap of faith into training in the year 2011. And for the last 7 years, I've been a trainer and a facilitator. I've been attached to Work Better now good to almost 4.5 years. And with the Work Better Club, I've been associated now ever since it started. In my journey as a trainer and a facilitator, I've upskilled myself and sharpened my own skill sets because I know that the global dynamic landscape is really changing and one needs to keep yourself upbeat. So I started with a certification on image consultancy and soft skill training. So hence today's topic is very close to heart because image consultancy is all about grooming and your personal branding. So that's exactly what we're going to be dedicating today. I've also certified as a life and a business coach and further certified into emotional intelligence as well as transaction analysis. And very recently, I got privileged to even further sharpen my skill sets with a certification on CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. So that was, like I said, about myself. In my journey into 7 years, I've trained more than 13,000 participants. I've done more than 650 sessions. All right, so that was about me. I can see almost we have 36 participants on board. And as and when people keep joining in, of course, we'll keep welcoming them. So very warm welcome once again into today's session. Some of you would already be aware about the logistics and how to conduct a virtual session. And more than, of course, apart from Work Better, you would be doing a lot of virtual sessions back at home at work as well. So as you all know, we will be keeping all your cameras and microphones disabled for this particular 90 minutes. I'm going to extensively ask you to start using the chat box as you're already doing that when you're wishing me good morning. So please continue to put in your thoughts on the chat box. Request you to park your questions in the Q&A section. So you can see right next to the participants, there is a Q&A box. I can see already two good morning messages parked there. So continue to park your questions there because after the 90 minutes, we will be dedicating specifically 30 minutes just for answering the question answers. The reason why we have segregated the two is because somewhere it loses the flow while we are conducting the session. So please park your questions there. One thing I've realized ever since April, I've started doing virtual sessions after the lockdown. The biggest aha of a virtual session is participation. So I'm going to encourage you all to ask, clarify your doubts, even the slightest of doubt that you have about grooming, about personal branding. Please go ahead and park those queries in the Q&A section. As we proceed, if there's any doubt that you want to clarify, please definitely use the chat box. So enjoy the session and of course, enjoy the learning experience because I think one thing I've learned in my life is learning is a choice. We can attend multiple training sessions because that comes to us as a reminder. We block our calendar, just like all of you done that, right? So Work Better has been sending you reminders saying that 1 hour from now, please log in. So you've already blocked it in your calendar. So that's an event. Training is an event is what I'm saying. What comes along with training is learning. That is a choice. So please exercise the choice today and make sure that the way we have built up the entire session is going to be very practical. So make sure that you carry back some practical tips today and of course, clarify your session. You're also aware that right in the end of the session, we do have an assessment. And the moment you get 70% and above, you're instantly given a certificate through the mail itself from Work Better. So make sure that you stay back, do the assessment, give your feedback so that we can further enhance the quality of our sessions. And of course, let's jump into the session itself. When we talk about grooming, and before I even mention the definition, the do's and don'ts, and why are we even having this session, a small disclaimer that I wanted to share. Some of us may be feeling that, China, we are in a lockdown phase. We are primarily working from home, and probably for the coming few months, we will be working from home nevertheless. I do agree with all of you. Having said that, this is not going to be staying forever. We are going to get back into the normal life, what we were doing much before March. We were meeting up with people face to face. We were going to office. So grooming becomes a very, very essential component and a very essential element of our lives. So whatever we are going to be discussing today, yes, of course, is going to be work context. But at the same time, I think all of you will agree with me that it's a very important aspect of our life, despite of the fact that currently we are probably, most of us may be working from home. Knowing these elements, keeping in mind the do's and don'ts, some tips will never go waste. Learning is an asset which I feel never has a depreciation. Yes, of course, I may not be able to use it right tomorrow because there may not be a need, but whenever required, the knowledge will come back and will help us to be able to outshine others. And that is the purpose of today's session. So that's the reason why I was mentioning the disclaimer. And of course, if there is any specific personal preference, please, I'll definitely please absorb practically what you can take away rather than everything, because that may not suit your landscape. So, which is perfectly okay, like I said. At any point of time, if you feel that there is an audio glitch, you're not able to hear my voice, please make sure that you park your message through the chat box and I'll definitely readjust or re-log in. Similarly, if you're not able to see the slide, do stop me through the chat box and let me know the same. I'll re-log in once again, right? Thank you once again for listening to me. So let's start the session. And today's session is dedicated to men's grooming. And of course, for all our ladies out there, we definitely have a session coming up for our ladies as well on a similar landscape. So today we're starting with men's grooming. So let me ask you all, and through the chat box, I'd like to invite you for a small, not only just a discussion, but asking you, what does well groom mean for each one of you? So this is a question to each one of you in the participants. Through the chat box, please let me know, what does well groom mean? Because, sometimes it could just mean different for us. I think the polling was on, so sorry about that. I've stopped it. Okay, great. Okay, Jesh has an exam at 10:30, so can I get the recording? All right, Jesh, I think this would be there on our Work Better dashboard as well. So you'll definitely be able to take it from that. Sainath mentions about presentation. Mr. Muthukumar, welcome back. We are to the confidence mean well groomed. All right. Chinmay, is that? Mr. Chinna Swami says self-confidence. I love that, Mr. Chinna Swami. Mr. Mani says good physique, dress sense is about well grooming. Sainath says presentation of ourselves in an appealing way. Palab says, welcome Palab, good to see you. There seems to be an audio glitch. Is it? All right. So let me, please, thank you for bringing that point across. I'll definitely re-look in at my re-login. And Nishan says good looking and appealing to all. Fair enough. So we've got different viewpoints here. Ganesh says making yourself neat and attractive, positive self-image and an attractive Satish says confident look and thought process. So again, so Nishant, if you're raising your hand, request you to just put your message on the chat box so that I can read it through. Palab, I hope the audio quality has come back. Nishant too is saying it's an audio glitch, is it? If it continues, I'll just make sure that Divya, I'm even logging in on the phone. So if you could please add me in through that, that would be helpful. Okay, so audio is fine now, says Pallab. Nishant, I hope you're able to hear me too. Great. So we've got multiple interpretations, if I may say so, and thought process of how it means or what it means to be well groomed. Exactly. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, because it's good to know exactly what you think before getting to know what widely people interpret it as or what research says. And I think well groomed is something which each one of us has a notion about it. So let me share that. And of course, Anchal says, to dress up as per the appropriate occasion. And you'll all be glad to know what I'm going to be showing in the next slide is going to be amalgamation of all your thought process, like you said. Let me quickly read out what Naman is saying. I believe well-groomed is carrying yourself confidently and looks don't matter. Naman, absolutely right. And there's so much truth in the statement that you have said and your thought about being well-groomed once again. So when we look at what well-groomed means. Okay, we've got Mr. Gurunath also saying gives us an opportunity to be able to present our perspective. Thank you, Mr. Gurunath. That's another viewpoint, definitely. So well-groomed means having a neat, smart, and a pleasing appearance, keeping the current cultural and organization context in mind. If you read every word of this particular 4 lines in this slide, you would notice that exactly in so many words, each one of you has been able to, embed it in the chat box, the similar kind of thoughts. So yes, of course, it is about being neat, about being smart, having a pleasing appearance. It's not about good looks. And absolutely, I like to say that Naman was bang on when he said that. And yes, keeping your current cultural and organization context in mind. I need to stand out, but I need not to be able to isolate myself. I need to stand out for the good reasons, not to be the odd one out. So yes, I need to be able to present myself, and well-groomed is something which makes me pleasing and approachable once again, right? So that's what we're talking about, well-groomed. Let me ask you, why? I mean, today's session is all about dressing to impress, and we're looking at men's grooming. So I'm sure each one of you today has logged in with the intent of taking away few tips, few takeaways, practical takeaways, which will help to enhance your physical appearance. That gets me to today's exercise. Why is it so important to be well groomed? And why are we saying that we need to put in an effort into our appearance? Please spark 3 pointers in. So three, one after another in one chat. If you could tell me, why is it so important? So Ekansh, thank you for starting the discussion. He says it generates confidence, and bang on once again, Ekansh. Can we have 3 of the points right together? So please mention all the 3 points in the chat box chronologically, one below the other. To sell ourselves, optimism, says Mr. Sainath. Mr. Ganpati says to sell ourselves. Self-confidence, says Mr. VP Venkateshwara. Pallab says, thank you, Pallab, for putting all the 3 together once again. Etiquette, seriousness of the occasion, being attended, seriousness of the occasion being attended. And Pallab, I think I missed out the last point. Let me quickly read that. And of course, self-image. Jess says it helps us to be confident. It will be able to make a point of ourselves and deliver what we are supposed to. Thank you. Mr. Venkateshwara, you've nailed it once again. First impression, bang on. Mithun says making others feel that I'm ready. Is that what you're trying to say? Excellent. Mr. Sarvana says to be appear to be true and right and good and confident. Preetham says to create an impact. Wow. Mr. Sainath says optimism, positive, and authentic. Mr. Preetham says to be able to influence. I love the thoughts coming in today. Excellent. Mr. Venkateshwara says to look professional, so that professionalism oozes out in being well groomed. So thank you, Mr. Venkateshwara, for bringing that point again across. So excellent thoughts. And I think all of you have been able to somewhere speak exactly what was in my mind. That yes, when we're talking about well grooming, when we're talking about, why we're putting that effort into our appearance, it is about these points. And let me read what Mr. Ankit has also mentioned. Self-confidence, it reduces a very, very nice, interesting point. It helps reducing anxiety and nervousness. And I'll try to elaborate that as we go ahead. Saksham says, self-confidence, being attractive, to create an impact, to to influence other. Thank you, Saksham, for consolidating all the points together. So excellent. So that means today's session is very, very important to each one of you, because you can see exactly why this session has been built together. And for each one of you, you can see the importance right here, because that's exactly the points that you have been able to come across. So if I put across the points about why it is important to be well groomed, exactly what you said. The way you dress and groom yourself says a lot about how organized and professional you are. Let me quickly read what Naman too has mentioned. Grooming is important because it is not only helps to impress, but also express yourself. Exactly right, Naman. And that's exactly what it says. It says about you, who you are. You could be a highly creative person. You would have noticed an extrovert person, his clothing, the color choices would be completely different. A person who is slightly introvert, a slightly passive, notice the color choices would also be different. Does it say who you are? First impression? Yes, it says who you are. May not give me the right 100%, evaluation of the person, but one glimpse, I do get to know that this person is very creative. This person has a very artistic bend, or probably this person is somebody who's very quiet and sober. That's because of the choices that he picks up when he's grooming himself. The color choices, the garments, the prints, all of that put together. And in one glimpse, I get at least slight impression. And that's exactly what we're saying, that your clothing reflects who you are, how organized you are, how professional you are. If I have to ask you all today, have you met people at work or in social landscape or in your personal sphere, people who've been dressed immaculately? What's been your impression about them vis-a-vis people who come a little shabbily dressed, probably not pressed, loose clothing, not fitting garments, colors which are contrasting? What's been your first impression even without knowing them? This is a question to all of you. Have you made an impression about people first time meeting them in a short time of, say, about 3 to 4 seconds? Whether when they are dressed up professionally vis-a-vis when they are dressed up a little shabbily. A casual attitude says Fancy. Thank you, Fancy. My second question to you is that whatever has been your first impression, has that stayed for a long time? Or has suddenly that person become completely reverse of your first impression? So Fancy, if you're saying that you saw a person shabbily dressed and you had you had an impression that this person carries a casual attitude, did you notice that that impression stayed for some time? Palab adds on, dressing has to match the body language communication skills too for a lasting impression. I love that thought about lasting impression, Palab. Like Mr. Venkateshwara says, particularly in a meeting when you see a person not immaculately dressed, it kind of, steps down on the impression that you create. Mr. Gurunath says, at the first instant, unfortunately, we judge their skills without even knowing them. All right, Mr. Gurunath, I'd like to elaborate that and I'll come back. And you're absolutely right, Fancy. That first time, that impression that we have formed about a person, if not a last impression, if I don't want to be so, cruel at that point of time, it definitely is a lasting impression. The other person whom I have formed an impression that he's casual has to work more harder for me to be able to change my impression about them. So that's how first impression takes place. And that's my second point as well. It has an impact on how others perceive you. Your first impression matters. So Pallab again adds on, dressing and grooming often is a power game. Wow, nice choice of words, Pallab, and absolutely right. And we're going to be talking about power dressing definitely today as well. Debashi says grooming is a part of self-discipline. So well says. And like you said, Debashish, it's a habit, right? So whatever becomes a habit over a part, over a time scale, that kind of gets inculcated and becomes a part of your self-discipline. So the moment you see a person immaculately dressed, that's the first impression that you draw upon the person. And believe me, that's how others perceive you as. Most of the times, you believe me or not, your well grooming shows your respect for your surroundings and, of course, the people who are working with you. Again, I'm reiterating, back at work, it really matters. Of course, today, working from home, sitting in front of the camera, I'm not saying that the self discipline should dip at any circumstances because you've already formed an impression in the minds of your colleagues. So it should be able to sustain and remain the same. Why should there be a dip at all? Mr. Sarvana says, in the external portray of what we are internally. Mr. Sarvana, I'm going to be talking about this in the coming slide, and I'm definitely going to quote what you mentioned, that it's an external portrayal of what you think internally. Very nicely said. So as you rightly said, it is very important to be well groomed. It talks a lot about who you are. It lays out a very positive first impression. It shows that you respect your colleagues and your surrounding. And of course, it's your self-esteem. It is boosting your confidence, like I believe Naman also said. So that's exactly what we feel when we are well groomed. I always take an example of a Sunday. I know the videos are off and you must be all in a nice, comfortable setting today when you're logged in for this call. But imagine if this was not a call. You're sitting straight, upright, you're looking into the camera, you're reading through the slide, and of course, hearing me. I can't see you, but you can see me. If I was casually dressed today, if I was wearing a big human t-shirt with a skull, calling out a nice kind of a quote here. And I would have then portrayed and said, you know what, I'm a trainer and a facilitator. I have a career experience of 20 years. I've trained XYZ people across different industries and verticals. Would I have been able to make that first impression positive upon you? This is a question to all my participants. If I was dressed up casually today, wearing a round neck t-shirt with a skull written being human, and I would have spoken so many things, and like I gave my introduction, would I have made a positive impression upon all of you? Would I have looked like a trainer? You could just say a yes or no through the chat box. Would I have made a positive impact? No, never. All right, that's kind of bombarded. Okay, Santosh, Nishant, Ganesh, Mr. Gurunath, thank you for being so honest. That yes, it matters. So even if I'm in a virtual world, even if you are able to see me and not vice versa, I need to dress and walk the talk, right? One, because it's a session. And secondly, as a trainer, you have an image in your mind about me, about a trainer, not about Shaina Malhotra, but about a trainer. So that image in your mind is that a trainer should be looking professional, well dressed, right? So, Naman, thank you for saying that. Depends on what the training is about. Like I said, today's training is about grooming. So, all the more, yet again, as a trainer, as a facilitator on a topic of grooming, should I be wearing a casual clothing? And even if whatever I talk, of course, you're going to pay attention to the slide. But that first impression, like Fancy said, it's a lasting one. And probably I would not have been able to create that much. Okay, Ekan says, no, ma'am, even your wallpaper creates the impression of the session. All right, Ekan, thank you. So that is to double up the impact, the wallpaper, so that, one does not get a little diverted with the background. So thank you, Ekan, for mentioning that. Okay, let me change the question and let me not talk about myself. So hypothetically, if you imagine yourself in Goa, okay, please do so. And believe me, sooner or later, we will start going to Goa as well. So imagine yourself hypothetically sitting on the beach. You're on an offsite from your office. Remember all the offsites that you visited. And suddenly, the person who's sitting next to you has a breathing problem. You get up and you start shouting, is there a doctor available at the beach? And suddenly, this gentleman comes up to you wearing shorts tattooed all over, wearing a bandana, and says, you know what? I'm head of cardiology at Nanavati. Would you feel comfortable reaching out to this gentleman who's all tattooed head to toe and wearing a bandana and white shorts and that go on t-shirt? What would be your first impression? Would you be feeling very comfortable? Yes, yes, please come and see my friend and please give him mouth to mouth respiration. Let me change the scenario. You go back to Bombay or you go back to your city, and now you're taking that same friend to the doctor, to Nanavati Hospital, and you're waiting for the head of cardio to come and meet your friend and to see your friend. And the head of cardio walks in. And in fact, you walk into the room, and guess what? You see the same gentleman whom you saw in the beach, but this time wearing a white coat, having a stethoscope in his shoulder. Are you feeling much more comfortable and are you feeling more credible to be able to take his advice? I've given you a similar gentleman, just two different situations. So thank you all of you for saying that, yes, not in the first one, but of course, the second instant, you will instantly feel the need. So let me quickly read Mr. Venkateshwara's response. There's a proverb, never judge the book by its cover. In that situation, I need to believe the men who is helping, willing to help. Thank you, Mr. Venkateshwara. And like I said, of course, our viewpoints will definitely be there. And you're absolutely right in saying that never judge the book by the cover. Read the story and then judge it. But today, believe me or not, sir, so many times in life, even without talking to people, even without asking their name or background, we end up judging them. For example, before Google Maps came in, I'm again giving a very, very practical example, and this would have happened with each one of us, including me. So before Google Maps came in, which we are now so dependent upon, taking any left or right turn, we used to ask people, am I right? We used to ask the people for directions. So imagine you're going on a road and there are a lot of auto drivers standing and you're busy finding this particular street in Bombay or Calcutta or in South or in North. And you're trying to figure out, should I ask this auto driver? No. What would he know? Let me go to the next one. This guy looks as if, he's more mature. Let me ask him. All I'm trying to say, sir, is that today, just by merely looking at a person, some of us, if I can say so more confidently, most of us draw a perception based on the first impression. So, and there is nothing. So when I gave the second example, it was just the clothing, it was just the grooming, where I made a quick fraction of a second decision whether I should ask him the question of a direction or not. By the way, most of the time the directions given by auto ride drivers are wrong, but nevertheless, I still did make a choice by looking at people. So I go with what you're saying is that definitely we would like to know people more. And of course, when I gave a doctor's example, it was about that initial help rather than, of course, judging him on the base of the looks. But believe me or not, sir, that most of the time when we look at people, when we meet people for the first time, even before they start talking, we draw impressions. Today, I introduce myself after 10, say about 5 minutes into the session. But believe me, you would have barely taken a couple of seconds to form an impression about me. I can say that confidently because that's exactly what we do when we look at people. That's exactly the time that we spend when we look at people. So Pallav again says, many magazines and books are sold on the basis of their cover again. Absolutely right. So going forward, when we talk about the consequences of poor grooming, and that's exactly why we have built in the session today, poor grooming again reflects my professional image. It shows how serious I am. Of course, you will look at the content, you will look at what I'm going to be delivering. But if I'm not well groomed, that instant impact, that edge that I can have, that's where I probably lose out. So if I'm poorly groomed and have a poor personal hygiene, then my teammates will try to avoid me and of course minimize their interaction. Not only that, it's sadly, but it's true we tend to get labeled in organizations. People tend to label, oh, that guy, don't go near him. He's probably has a bad body odor. So you would notice that sometimes people tend to label others if the grooming is not appropriate. Similarly, poor grooming can result in some professional limitations, limitations as well. For example, if I'm going to be thinking about some 7 managers in front of me and I have to pick up just one manager to represent the organization for a particular chat show, for a virtual discussion, for a digital landscape, then I look at a person who's not only credible, knowledgeable, but also somebody who is well groomed. So holistically, I'm saying, please don't get me wrong. When I say people tend to judge book by its cover, it does not mean that the content could be all over the place. I need to be professional. I need to be knowledgeable. I need to be credible. And my credibility comes with my knowledge, not just with my grooming. So it can't be empty inside. It can't be hollow inside. Like Mr. Sarvana said, it should be what you are. You should be able to reflect who you are. Today's session is just to accentuate the fact that yes, at times we are so knowledgeable, we have so much of credible knowledge within us. At times we're not able to present the same. That's about communication. At the same time, we're not able to give that serious look or make that positive impact. So somewhere or the other, one of the element, if it is not appropriate, not there at the right time, it kind of loosens or dilutes the impact. So I'm going to be talking about the fact that please make sure that yes, you are credible, you are knowledgeable, you're a domain expert, you are a subject matter expert of the field that you are currently showcasing. When we talk about grooming, the two elements should marry. Your knowledge, your grooming, all of these are very key elements. For example, when we talk about personal branding, the biggest pillar, when I say about personal branding, the 4 pillars are A, B, C, D. Does anybody know what is the 4 pillars of personal branding? What is personal branding, by the way? Yes, I'm digressing, but very appropriate for today's discussion. Hence, I'm asking you, what is personal branding? Okay, Fancy says a very nice, simple word. It is self-marketing. All right, Fancy. Great. So what is personal branding? Brand calls you, all right. So I'll say a small quote, a one-liner quote of Jeff Bezos, and I think that's going to help you to understand personal branding. So Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, says, what people say in your absence is your personal brand. Nishan, thank you for bringing that across. Self-positioning. What people say in your absence, so I'm only talking professionally currently, is your personal brand. So when I'm presenting in front of you right now, the moment I stop presenting, I'm exiting from the Zoom call. What you say in my absence would have been the personal brand that I demonstrated in your presence. So, of course, we all would like that our stakeholders back at work, our clients, our influencers, they all talk positively about ourselves when we are not in the room. So whether it is for our career advancement, for the next promotion, we want people to talk good about us when we're not present in the room after giving our probably presentation, review, whichever demonstration that you've given us. That's personal branding. So I said, today's session is not about personal branding, so I don't want to dilute it. But I asked you the question, the pillars of personal branding in short, just to put a curtain on this particular topic, is A, B, C, D. What does A represent? What does A of personal branding represents? Thank you, Mr. Gurunath. Uniqueness of an individual. Present yourself as a brand. Thank you, Nitin. The look. So, Pallab, A stands for absolutely right, the look, which is appearance. And that's what we're going to be discussing today for all our gentlemen in the call today. So we're going to be focusing on the first pillar of personal branding, which is appearance, because not just for the sake of ABCD, but again, when you look at a person, before you're able to tell about my experience, before you're able to talk about, the number of times that I've met people who have inspired me, who have motivated me, who have inspired me to be better, we are talking about branding, right? So when we are talking about personal branding, how to be well groomed, what we've done is we've quickly broken our session into two parts. So, Sainath, you're not able to listen to me? I'm so sorry. Please repeat the, okay, audio with glitch is happening sometimes. Is that Pallab? Okay, give me a second again. Please let me know when my voice is back. Nishant, Mr. Sainath, Fancy, are you all able to hear me now, or would you like me to re-log in? Please let me know if you want me to re-log in at any point of time. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Muthukumaran. So the last 10 seconds, what I mentioned, I'll probably be repeating that, so don't worry. And I'll continue with that. So how to be, when we're talking about how to be well groomed, what we've done in the session today, respective time, we've broken it into two parts: hygiene, and of course, your appearance, right? And clothing. So these are the two parts of today's session, and we'll quickly jump into the first part, which is about maintaining your personal hygiene, right? So that's exactly we will be talking in today's session. So when we're talking about personal hygiene, a very rhetoric question, but a very pertinent one again. How important is personal hygiene for all of you, despite of the fact that you're sitting at home? How important is personal hygiene for all of you? 200%, says Nishan. Very right. I wish I could come and give you a chocolate, a physical chocolate rather than a virtual one, but a virtual one goes right out to you. Very important, says Preetham. Mr. Saina says important for us and others surrounding us. So thank you, Mr. Saina, Dishant, Pallab, Preetham, for all of you for reiterating and reinforcing, whether we are at home or whether we are at work. I think personal hygiene is something which, like we say, is a hygiene factor, right? So this is something that is a basic thing, like Pratyush is saying. Ignoring it, again, believe me or not, like I mentioned about some of the pitfalls of not being well groomed, at times, not only is the fear of labeling, we do miss out some important elements back at work, right? You know, the first critic to bad hygiene, okay, would be your wife. Thank you, Mr. Pallav. Yes, she would be the filter that you go across before you reach out to the other stakeholders. So I think that is a level or a hurdle that you have to cross. But I think that's once you develop it as a personal habit, I think, believe me, you don't need anybody to judge you or to tell you. So quickly, we will go through the personal hygiene section, and because I know that each one of you knows the importance, so this would be just be a refresher. So please be patient when I take you across. And I think you'll agree with what has been mentioned in this slide that many people shy away talking from personal hygiene or giving others feedback. And I think you would have noticed, I know I've traveled myself in the trains in Bombay, and I think all of you would have come across a lot of people when you talk about personal hygiene there. And we tend to probably look away. We feel a little shy to upfront it to the other person, right? I think I'm just, again, being rhetoric here. I'm assuming all of you will agree with me because of how sensitive and how personal this topic is to each one of us. And of course, it's very important for all of us professionals. You know, whether you're a corporate, whether you're working with a multinational, you're working with the private, the public, the government sector, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working from home, believe me, it doesn't matter. Personal hygiene is going to be upmost at all times. Not only just because I'm meeting a person, am I supposed to, take care of my personal hygiene? It is something which is so embedded in me. So that's exactly how I look at it, and irrespective of who I'm meeting and who my stakeholders is. So when I'm demonstrating personal hygiene, that needs to come top in the order once again. So going ahead, when we're talking about personal hygiene, and like I said, I'll quickly cover these topics. So when we talk about personal hygiene, we're talking about bathing, we're talking about skincare, and of course, oral hygiene. And yes, irrespective of the weather, irrespective of whether it is hot, it's cold, I think these are things that we need to take care on a daily basis. So bathing at least, once a day, and at times probably twice, depending on the humidity level that we are going through currently all across, pan India. And of course, keeping yourself neat and clean is not just bathing; it's also about your hair. It's about a routine. check on your face, as well as because some of us could have really oily skin. So that's something that we need to take care, so that we are always looking fresh. Again, believe me or not, you're able to see me, I'm not able to see all of you. So you are making your first impressions on the basis of what you get to see. So today, if each of these elements was not in order, you would have created a first impression about me, despite of whatever I'm speaking. What I'm trying to say is, we are visual people. As humans, we are visual. We are auditory and kinesthetic too, but we are largely visual. So if you look at the large population, we are very visual. So when I'm saying visual 10 times a day, what I'm trying to say is that we remember faces, we forget names. Do you also have this kind of an issue, that you remember faces of people but you forget their names? Isko kahin dekha hai. I know this guy. I've seen him. Oof, I'm not able to remember his name. Does it happen with you? Okay, Palab says, shampoo almost daily. Indian cities are hot, humid, and dusty. We take decisions through what we see and then what we hear. Palab, thank you for reiterating that again for me. So all I was saying, and Pratyush, thank you for admitting that, like me, even some of us would remember remember faces, but forget names. And why is that? Because, like I said, as humans, our brain clicks a picture of the person, the place in our brains. We're not able to always coincide it and connect it with the name that we heard. So, name hearing is auditory, seeing a face is visual. So when we talk about appearance, it is visual, right? And this goes back to the research when I was talking about Albert Meribin, I believe in the last session also, where almost 55% of the time we form impressions of what we get to see, which includes appearance, which includes your oral hygiene, your look, and of course your body language, which is non-verbal. 38% of the time we form impressions on the basis of paraverbal, which is what you get to hear, and only 7% is words. Today, of course, in the virtual landscape, the figures would vary. But like I said, this is not going to remain always. We're going to get back into the normal of meeting people. So oral hygiene, of course, brushing your teeth, scrubbing, and because that's where the odor also generates from. I met a dentist, and I'm just talking something offhand. He, in fact, reiterated the fact that, Shaina, you should be brushing after every meal. Now, I know it's difficult. We can't just be doing that all the time, but that's what he said should be the extent of oral hygiene. Tough, but people do recommend that. Use mouthwash, especially after lunch. I think all of you will agree with me that when we talk about Indian cuisines, it has a lot of odor. We do take a lot of onion and garlic as compared to the rest part of the globe. So that is what gets emitted in our odor as well. So what we eat, it's human to human, it's person to person. Some of us may not, but some of us may. So just to mitigate any chances when we're back at work after lunch, yes, having a mouthwash, especially if you have a habit of having a very heavy lunch with a lot of garlic and onions, make sure that you mouthwash, because unknowingly that's what gets emitted. And of course, you could probably just chew a mint, and that's the reason why, not only for digestive reasons do we have sauve, I'm talking about the condiments that you have, mint. That's not just because of digestive, but also for a mouth freshener. So if you have a habit, do just pop in a mint, and that will always be helpful. Just giving you some examples right here. Mouthwash, you could just take in a Listerine strip, or probably add on a mint. Not too much of mint, because it has some other side effects as well, right? So some more personal hygiene tips when we're talking about body odor. Don't skip on a deodorant. And most importantly, if some of us have a heavy perspiration, because like I said, it's body to body, you could actually rub in an antiperspirant roll-on. What is the difference between the two? Well, a deodorant is not going to stop you from perspiring. An antiperspirant roll-on may help you to reduce the perspiration level, not completely mitigate it, but reduce it to a certain level. So deodorant you spray nevertheless, even if you're perspiring, but an antiperspirant roll-on you rub on to reduce the perspiration level, because some of us really perspire. And like Palab rightly mentioned, some of the parts of India, we do have a high humidity level. I think today almost every part of India has it. So this could be a problem which could be faced by some of us. A deodorant gets rid of the odor by sweating, and of course an antiperspirant tries to stop it. If you're using a cologne, apply it on pulse points. I hope all of you know what are pulse points. Pulse points. What are pulse points? So these are pulse points, where your pulse is, right behind your ear, neck, wrist, even right here. So these are your pulse points. So when you put it in your pulse points, it stays for a longer period of time rather than spraying on your clothing. That's what we're trying to say, right? So whenever you're rubbing in, whenever you're spraying a cologne or a perfume, try to put it on your pulse points and don't spray it on your clothes. That's not something. Deodorants, I hope you're aware, there are multiple fragrances. And some of us may not be liking something which is very strong or something which is very, very musky or woody or oriental. So you have different fragrances. And in each fragrance, for example, if you pick up fresh, floral, you'll have a citrus, you'll have something which is earthy, you'll have something which is woody, you'll have something which is oriental. So you can actually pick up a fragrance which suits your choice, your liking, and it should not be something which is so dominating which puts everybody else 100 meters apart. Because at times I have actually experienced it, that it gives me a headache if I'm coming across somebody with a very, very strong deodorant. So take something which is subtle at the same time, which reflects who you are, right? Like I mentioned about the fragrances. So ear and nasal hygiene, yes, of course, at times we do have, growth in both our ears and no- uh, the nasal area as well. So make sure that you keep that in check, whether you're going to a salon or doing that yourself, and remove anything which is visible. Further on personal hygiene, routine, cut your nails, not being very generic, but yes, I've seen sometimes, even with men, that they will keep one particular finger's, nail longer. I think, believe me or not, professionally, when you look at people with that, it suddenly puts you off. So make sure that you have a habit of routine cutting your nails, specifically if you're traveling in public transports. And I can understand the rush. Of course, right now, the metros, the trains are all off. But I do remember the time that we were all in a metro and a train, and the type of crowd that we were rubbing against to reach to our destination. Carry a formal shirt, because remember, back at work, they will form a first impression the moment they see you. Nobody will like to first hear the story and then form an impression. You will always get a chance to tell what made you look like that. But that, remember, the first impression is already formed. Carry a small pouch if you're traveling long distances. And I know that in a lot of part of India, we do travel for 2.5 hours to actually reach our work destination. So keep a little pouch in your bag which carries the necessary requirements, so that you don't have to look out or seek it from others or borrow it. So just a small thing, and believe me, there is nothing women about it. There is nothing which one needs to shy of just because we are gentlemen. So we can keep that pouch in our bag so that we're always having that ready. Any doubts? I can see the question is getting parked in Q&A, so please make sure that you do that so that we don't miss out on any of your questions. And as we go ahead, I'm moving into a very, very very interesting for me, having done a lot of research, coming on to personal appearance. Okay, Santosh wants me to go back onto the last slide. So here it is, Santosh. If there's any doubt, Santosh, if it's not a question, please feel free to ask me in the chat box, or else based on this, you could actually go back on the Q&A as well. Santosh, do give me a thumbs up if you are okay, and can I move ahead? All right, thank you. Great, Santosh. So like I said, now we're moving to the second part of the program, which is personal appearance. So let's quickly cover about personal appearance. And like I said, a very interesting topic. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And remember, hypothetically and in your mind, just keep your wardrobes that you already have back at home and where you're sitting right now, so that if there's any question coming up, you could ask me. So the 4 A's of dressing well, and this should help you all the time to decide what you're picking up from your wardrobe for any occasion. So let me ask you, before showing you what's the 4 A's, does anybody know what is the 4 A's of dressing? This is not personal branding. We're talking about appearance, we're talking about grooming. So when we talk about dressing, what are the 4 A's? Some guesses? I think Mr. Sarvana had mentioned it without realizing, and I definitely did mention at that time that I'll bring it up in this topic. Or was that Mr. Venkateshwar? Attraction, says Mr. Ganpati. Okay. And Mr. Ganpati, virtual chocolate, you are kind of there. Aesthetic, says Mr. Sainath. Santosh says attention. Attire, says Nishant. Great. I'm so glad that what I will be sharing with you will be slightly new, so that this remains in your mind. This is the first thing that I learned in image consultancy. So when I was doing the image, and this is way back in 2012 when I started into image, and this is the first lesson that I learned that time. So I feel very glad to go back into my learning and to be able to see it in this. So maybe attitude, says Jagat. All right, Jagat, and thanks for trying, all of you, for thinking what the 4 A's is. The first A of dressing is nothing else but a very important element, and that is being authentic. And I think this is what Mr. Venkateshwar or Mr. Sarvana tried to say. Be authentic, be who you are. I could be looking at a lot of trends, I could be looking at a lot of fads, I could be looking at a lot of celebrities dressing up in a particular style. But is that who I am? Maybe not. So be authentic, be who you are. Dressing blindly, copy pasting a style blindly may not be your style. And I probably may not be that confidently, be able to walk out and display that particular slide. So the first A is be real. Yes, be unique, but be who you are. Because when you are who you are, it shows confidence. When you are trying to emulate into somebody else, that confidence comes somehow dips. I'm not saying always, some of us may be very good at displaying that as well, but I'm saying that even like they say, copy pasting also needs a particular style. So if it is not who you are, it'll come up in your body language, it'll come up and it'll show in your confidence level as well. So be authentic, be true, and reflect who you are. For example, if I'm an introvert personality, believe me, I'll pick up colors like gray, blacks, and normally, I'm very generically saying, if I'm an overtly extrovert personality, believe me, I'll be picking up vibrant colors like a red, a yellow, or an orange. Now, if I'm being an introvert person, I wear a red, I probably may not be able to reflect who I am, and I'll not be in my space, I'll not be in my groove. So I'll not be authentic. So the first A is be authentic. The second is be appropriate. Like I said, and I gave an example of the doctor sitting in Goa. Now, he was appropriately dressed for a beach. He was wearing shorts, he was wearing a Goan t shirt, he was wearing a bandana, he was showing his tattoos because he was in Goa, and that's exactly how people are dressed. Well, back at work, being a doctor, he was wearing a white coat and a stethoscope because that's exactly what the image of a doctor is. When we see a doctor, we imagine he'll be in a white coat. When we see a lawyer, we imagine he'll be in a black coat. When we see a banker, we imagine he'll be wearing a tie. These are certain, uh, can I say, notions that we all have, perceptions, or the image that we have already embodied in our mind. कि ये है तो ऐसा होगा and ये है तो ऐसा होगा. A slight differ from there, and it takes a little bit more time to form a good impression about them. So be appropriate. While you're going for a particular occasion, for example, I'm going for a wedding and I'm going in a pajama, believe me, I'll be standing out unique, but for all the wrong reasons. So make sure that your outfit should match the surroundings or the occasion or the venue. right? That's the reason why you would have noticed that some places, they probably put the dress code outside. It could be a pub, it could be a club. They put the dress code that no floaters allowed, no loafers allowed, or no shorts allowed in a particular club or a particular specific place. So be appropriate, because the people around you may not feel comfortable looking at you in a particular attire. The third, and this goes back to one of you just mentioned that attraction. Was that Nishant? Was it Nitin? So I hope you've been able to see it. Attractive is the third A. And when we are saying attractive, it does not mean that the label of the brand should be coming out. All I'm trying to say is that it should fit your body. If you look at somebody who's wearing a very loose garment, you form an impression vis-a-vis somebody who's wearing a very tapered garment. So if I'm wearing something which is very oversized, you'll be like, what's wrong with you, Shaina? Why are you wearing something oversized? That's the first impression. You may not say it, but yes, that's an impression that you form. So wear something attractive, and like it mentioned, it should complement you and your body type. The last A is affordable. Now, clothing is something that one should be able to afford it for a very long time. Today, yes, we are taking you across through a grooming session. You will never stop purchasing, will you? That's a yes. You will never stop purchasing. So you will definitely go ahead, and whenever you get chance to go to the mall, now what I'm doing is I'm going to train your eyes to pick up the right thing. That's what today's session and this part of today's session is going to help you. Whatever you have in the wardrobe, it will help you to mix and match better. So please don't burn whatever you have. Please don't dispose of whatever you have. The intent is that what you have in your wardrobe, you can use it more appropriately, more effectively. And as you keep purchasing, you will now not experiment too much, and you'll pick up garments which suit your image and how you want to portray your personal brand. So when we are saying, affordable, nobody's going to turn my collar and see whether it's a Louis Vuitton or whether it's a Dolce Gabbana. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a neat, well groomed, authentic, and appropriate garment. So it should be affordable. It should not be that there is one statement piece that I've spent lakhs and now I can't afford anything else. So it should be affordable, not so costly. And of course, we need to remember that we should be able to use the garment and maintain it. And if every garment requires dry cleaning, you can imagine the cost that you'll have to incur in maintaining your wardrobe. So make sure that it is affordable. So 4 A's of dressing, please always keep that in mind when you are getting ready for work, you're getting ready for occasion. Think, is this who I am? Is this color representing me? Is this pattern reflecting who I am? I know it sounds very trivial, but believe me, when it becomes a habit, you really don't have to bother too much and take out too much time. Think whether it's appropriate. It's a night function. Why am I wearing such a dull color? It's a morning function. Why am I wearing a red color? I'm going to a golf course. Am I rightly dressed? I'm going to a club to meet my friends. Why am I dressed so flamboyant? So appropriate, attractive. Is this garment too fitted, too tight, or too loose? It should be rightly fitted and, of course, affordable. So small things, but believe me, goes a very, very long way, right? So, okay, Preetham, so sweetly and so honestly, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the chat box. Can I request you to just park this exact question, copy paste, and put it in the Q&A? I'll elaborate and give you further tips on it. Believe me, I will do that, and we have half an hour dedicated for Q&A. So just take out this question and park it in the Q&A. All right? Okay. So fit of clothes. This section is going to help me answer Preetham's question, but definitely we will take it separately as well. So when we're talking about fitting of clothes, I'm going to quickly take you through whether we're talking about trousers, whether we're talking about shirts, what should be the fit of the clothes, and what are some of the do's and don'ts, or can I say some tips that we need to keep in mind so that we are able to make sure that we give the right authentic image about ourselves. So when we talk about collars, shirt collars, well, this is a coat that I'm wearing and I'm wearing a round neck. But at the same time, when we're talking about the collar of the shirt, they have sizes. Do you all know that the shirt collar has sizes? I'm again touching my coat collar, but I'm talking about the shirt collar. Do you know that it has, that shirts have sizes 40, 42, 38, 44? Do you know that the collar has a size as well? 15 and a half, 17 and a half. Thank you, Pallab. So these are the collar sizes. So if you just turn the back of the shirt where the 42 is written, right besides that, there'll be a shot popping out which says the collar sizes. Now, they may not be mentioned in all shirts, but yes, a little branded like you are, if you have a Van Heusen or you have a Louis Philippe or an Arrow, you will notice that the collar size is mentioned. Why? Well, some of us have very slim necks, whereas some of us are a little healthy. So you would notice that some of us have a problem in shutting the top, button when we are putting in a tie. And that's because of the collar size. You picked up a 42, but the collar size may be 15 and a half. You can actually ask for a 42 with a 17 and a half collar if you're a little healthy and if you have problems shutting the top button. So keep a note of that. Clothes is an expensive investment as we're going ahead. And we notice that every shirt also costs you 2.5, 3 grand or 4 grand if you're picking up in one of these brands. So if you're investing so much, you might as well make the right choice and know things about it. So make sure that you check the collar size so that you get back home and you then try to, and you never actually open up the shirt the same day and wear it, right? You wear the shirt on the day of going for the office, and that time when you're struggling, I know it's a little bit of a dampener. So make sure you pick up the right collar size. And of course, how to check? If you shut the top button, if you're able to put 2 fingers in, that means that the shirt is the right size if you're able to do that without a struggle. If it is too much of a struggle while you're putting your 2 fingers in after shutting the topmost button, that means it's way too tight. If 3 to 4 fingers are going, that means it's way too loose. So that's a very quick way of knowing whether the collar of the shirt is appropriate or not. I've already told you the size, that's one way. But if you're wearing the shirt in the showroom, which I generally don't see, I've never seen my husband doing that. He just picks it up off the shelf and then comes home and wears it. So it's too late. And then you go back home and go back to the shop to change. So just remember the collar size. Okay. The shoulder fit. So the collar fit is something which I've already told you. I think all of you would have noticed, and if you have your spouses going with you to the showroom, I think they do the checks and they check on your shoulder. But the right way is to be able to see that this particular, can you see this particular hem done right here? It should sit comfortably on my shoulder. The moment it is below, that means it is way too loose. And if this hem is coming here, then it's way too tight. So that's the way that you check the shoulder of your particular garment on where it is sitting. And similarly, if you can, I'm taking the cursor on this particular image. Preetam, I'll just give me a minute and I'll quickly go back to the collar. So if you look at this particular image right here, the second one, you can see how the buttons are too tight because the shoulder is smaller than what you have taken. The shoulder size also comes exactly in sizes. So it would be 17 and a half, 18 and a half, 16 and a half. That would be the shoulder size. But wearing the garment, you will be able to get to know where the hem is falling. This hem is right on my shoulder. That means it is right cut for my body type. Uh, Preetam, right here for you. So just taking it back on the slide for Preetam. I think he had to, if there's any question, Preetam, please do park it in the Q&A section. We've left with just 25 minutes. So I would like to cover the rest of the portion, but I'll definitely answer your question on the Q&A section. So let me know if it is clarified. Just give me a thumbs up and I'll move ahead. This was for Preetam. So we spoke about the collar and we spoke about the shoulder length, right? That is about the shirts. Preetam, if it is okay, I'm moving ahead into the next section. Just give me a yes or a thumbs up. I hope the torso, what is a torso, by the way? Can you see the second image? Your stomach area is the torso, right? So if it is too tight and if the shoulder, like is probably falling here, it'll be way too tight and there'll be space between the buttons. And of course, if I see a person, first time, if I'm meeting, with the shirt button and the torso splitting, the shirt button splitting, confidence, will help you to create that positive first impression. Okay. Am I audible again? Okay, just give me 2 seconds. If you want, I'll just probably just change the network because I think there's a network problem at my end. So just give me a second. Okay, I hope I'm audible now. Please do let me know if you're able to see the PPT and hear me as well. Am I audible? Okay, great. Thank you all of you for mentioning that because I completely lost and I think being at home, these are certain pitfalls that we all must be facing through, which are these technical glitches. So I'm really sorry once again about that because sometimes the network does get unstable. So was there any question? Yes, Nishan, thank you for bringing that point. So yes, we were at torso. So let me go back to that. Okay. So, Saksham, torso is where we are talking about the shirt being way too tight. So, when the shirt is way too tight, can you see my cursor going to the second image? Not the first one, but the second image. The middle one. Can you see the gap in between the buttons? Now, that's because the shirt size is either smaller or the shoulder size is smaller, which is making the button space split. Now, if that is the image, the middle photograph, if you're able to see, you're able to form an impression that the person has picked up a shirt which is a size shorter. So the torso is your stomach area, the abs. So that is the torso area, right? The chest and the stomach. So if the shirt is relatively smaller, of course, it'll give an impression that you picked up a garment a smaller size, and the splitting image on the buttons will again not give a very positive or, like you said, a very impactful impression to the other person. I hope the torso part was clear. Great. So let's move on to the shirt sleeves, the length of the sleeves. Now, looking at the images right here, sometimes the sleeves itself could be a little tight or very loose. So when you look at the image and when you can look at the shirt sleeves, the sleeves also should not be way too loose or way too tight. How do you measure it? Of course, by wearing it, because when you wear it, you'll be able to see that the length of the sleeves should definitely be till up to your wrist, the wrist, the bone, and should not be going beyond it because then that means it is way too long. It should just be kind of closing onto the wrist right here, the buttons, right? So the length should be till the wrist bone, and above or below the wrist bone is something which will not be appropriate. There's nothing as unacceptable. I think that word is too heavy and too harsh. It'll just be inappropriate and it will not look too appealing. So it should just end at the wrist bone. And hence, I've not mentioned any length here because all of us, the height and our length of our shoulders as well as our hands would vary. So please pick up a shirt accordingly. Neither should be too tight, nor should it be too loose. And it should be something that you're able to bend your arms comfortably, right? So if you're able to bend your arms comfortably, that is showing the exact length of your sleeves as well. Coming on to the trousers, when you notice the trousers, the way it has been shown to you in this particular image itself, this is a length which is comfortable. This is the fitting which is comfortable. And we have something which we're talking about your waistband. Where exactly should it be? Now, I know for all of you, you will be comfortable with a particular length. One thing I've realized, whenever you're going to a particular showroom, to buy a particular garment, make sure that the shoes that you wear should be appropriate. So if you wear floaters or chappals and you go to a particular showroom, wear on a formal trouser, that's not the footwear that you will be wearing back at work. So a lot of good showrooms today even have certain shoes displayed so that you wear them and then wear the garment to give any alteration requirement. Why is it required? When you're measuring the length of your garment, there is something called as a break. And do you know what is a break? Let me ask you all. What is a break in a trouser? Break, B-R-E-A-K. What is a break in a trouser? This is a question to all our gentlemen. What is a break in a trouser? No idea. So sweet, Jagat. Thank you always for being so honest. Okay, the length of the trouser is something which you all agree with me. When we're talking about the length, it should neither be too tight nor too loose in terms of the width of the trouser. Similarly, on the waist, it should be something which is comfortable. How do you know whether your trouser is way too loose? When you put on the belt, you would notice that folds will follow. So that shows that it is way too loose. So make sure that it is not a bigger size, because then of course the folds will come. If it is way too tight, of course, you will be uncomfortable, and that will show in the crotch and the length as well. So make sure that that is length. I'll quickly come to the break, which I mentioned to you. Uh, of course, the waistband should be appropriate. The bottom of the trouser should touch the shoe, but not form too many loops. Now, that's what we're talking about, the break. Now, can you look at the trouser? Can you see the cursor, all of you, where I've taken it right to the bottom? Now, the length of the trouser should touch the top of the lace area. Can you see here the laces are starting? That's where the length of the trouser should touch. So it has one fold. So there is neatly, probably you're not able to see the fold here because it's a dark color trouser, but there should just be one fold, and that's called a break. Why should we have at least one break? So that when you sit down, the trouser should not go up and definitely should not be showing you any skin above your socks. Having multiple breaks will make the trouser look too loose. Having no break would mean that when you sit down, your trouser will shoot up and a portion of your leg will be, or skin will be shown. That's the reason why we mentioned that there should be one break at least before it touches the top of the lace of the shoe, right? And from the back, if you're asking, that's exactly where the length should be falling. So that's when we are talking about the trouser and the basic fit. And I know, I mean, each one of you will have a personal choice. Please maintain that. There's no problem at all. I'm only referring to the do's and don'ts so that you're able to keep that in mind. When we're talking about the crotch area is right here, right below the waistband. Make sure that it falls smoothly, and any pulling in the material will make it look too tight. Could you please elaborate the point? Sainath, are you mentioning about the break? There is another slide which I will talk about the break. So let me come to that and I'll clarify break once again. All right? Okay. So the crotch area, again, I mentioned should not be way too tight. Look at here. This is what I was referring to about the break. And I hope, Sainath, it becomes very clear. If there is too little break, can you look at the first image? The trouser is also too tight. Can you see the width? And the break, can you see it is not touching the top of the lace area? It is probably only coming to the ankle. So if the break is not there, when this gentleman sits down, the first image I'm talking about, when he sits in the chair, his trouser will go up, and more than the socks area, it will go up, and that will not be too ideal. If you look at the second image, this is absolutely right. There is one break here, and it is falling right on the top of the lace, where the laces start, not where it ends. So when he sits down, the trouser is not going to shoot up and it's going to be right at the level of the socks. When you look at the third image, there are multiple breaks. There are too many folds. In fact, if you notice here, my cursor, it is in fact covered the entire lace area. It's looking baggy. So that is what I'm asking you to avoid. So maintain just one break in your trousers. That should be appropriate. Sainath, I hope you were able to get that. You want me to take you to the previous slide? All right. Is this what you're referring to? Please ask your question, or like I said, just from this slide, if there's any question, quickly park that in the Q&A section so that I can take that in the next half an hour. A little bit more to cover and then we'll be good to go. Earlier than this also, Shaina, or this is good enough? Okay, this is good enough. Fair enough. All right. So this was about the trouser break. I hope that's clear. And again, I hope you've been able to get the point that why I'm asking you to wear your office shoes when you're giving your alteration requirements or while you're getting a tailor garment made for you yourself. Wearing house chappals or wearing floaters will probably not give the desired length, because when you wear your office shoes, it might vary. So why, spoil the garment completely? So moving on to the trouser shape. Again, not mentioned here, something that I like to further elaborate is that we wear straight trousers, or can I say we currently, when you're looking at the trends, we have noticed that people are wearing more of straight. Those pleated trousers are out of fashion. A small tip for all of you here: if you are somebody who's a little bit healthy, I will advise you to wear straight trousers and not pleated trousers. Why? You're giving an illusion of more width when you're wearing a pleated garment. So wear straight trouser gives an illusion of slim legs. We are not recommending you to lose your weight. We're recommending you with your garments, giving an illusion of straight silhouette or something which is more slimmer. Right? So garments can actually give that illusion. And I will talk about that in the tips section once we do the Q&A. But right here, when we're talking the front of the trouser, make sure that it is straight garments. Like I said, all of us would like to give a slimmer image. So that would definitely help. And they should hug your leg a little tightly, but not so, because obviously day in and day out, if you're spending 8 hours in office and 2.5 hours traveling, it should be comfortable. So way too tight, you would not like it to be comfortable. Too loose will obviously not give that fourth, the third A, attractive. That's what we're talking about. So make sure that it's neither too tight nor too loose when it is clinging on to you, right? A very important part of appearance and clothing not only comes with the fit, but also comes with the color and planet. So Preetham wants us to go back. So Preetham, any questions on this particular slide? Quickly, please park it in the Q&A section. I've come to the last slide, and quickly give me a thumbs up if you're been able to find out that particular doubt. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Preetham. So moving on to the next section, which is color and color palette, or can I say both for your top garment as well as your lower garment. So when we talk about some rules or some tips to represent, if you can notice what I'm wearing today, of course, this is for ladies, but nevertheless, the color that I'm wearing today, just a second, please. I'm so sorry about it. So if you can notice the color that I'm wearing today, I've maintained a contrast. So I'm wearing white in the center and I'm wearing a darker garment on the top. So when I'm wearing a contrast, what is it doing? It is making you concentrate right here on the top. So making contrast in your clothing makes people look into your eyes and talks. You may wonder how, but I'm going to talk about that as we talk about colors in this particular section. So some rules to remember: a solid color shirt always pair well with a solid color trouser. What is a solid color? A solid color means a single color. Something which is not patterned, something which does not have two colors is a solid color. So whites, blacks, blues, single color would be called as a solid color. So if you're looking at a professional, if you're looking at somebody who's wanting to make an impression, you're going for an interview, you're sitting on a virtual, today, again digressing, but a personal example. Today, my son is appearing for his law university, and he's sitting for online interviews. So I was telling him that how looking professional really matters, though he's only turning 18. But believe me, the first impression matters even online when he's giving his interviews to universities. So wearing a collared shirt vis-a-vis a round neck matters, because the interviewer is again forming an impression. He'll probably not get a chance to meet you face to face for the next 6 months, unfortunately, because colleges are closed. So your garments, when you're sitting in front of your laptop and talking to people, whether in an interview, whether in a presentation, matters. The colors that you're picking up, they're reflecting on your face. If I was wearing just a white shirt, only white, it would have made me look a little duller on the virtual, landscape. Face to face, I would have looked like nice, bright and sunny. But probably looking into the laptop, if I was just wearing a white garment, I would have looked a little duller. Why? Because my face is, definitely lighter than the color of the shirt. So on a virtual landscape, if you're wearing shirts, try to avoid just wearing a plain white. Try to wear a different color, right? So webinar look is very important, right, Pallav? The face and the upper part of your dress, like TV news anchors, is very, very important. So very rightly said. So what you wear in the upper garment is very important. But like I said, we are not going to remain like this in a virtual space for a long time. And I hope and I pray to God that we will be back into our normal space soon. So wearing contrast is what I'm recommending. For somebody who's healthy, a very small and a very, very efficient tip: wear a lighter garment inside and wear a darker garment outside. So if you're wearing coat, make sure that the shirt is a lighter one. If you ask me why, the way I've maintained a contrast, you're only looking here in the center. Your eyes are not traveling on the side. Your eyes are only restricted to the center. So, the health part of it, your eyes will not travel to the curves on the side, whereas your eyes will only travel to the lighter garment. That's why we have buttons in the center. So the buttons, if they are in the center, your eyes start looking at the buttons or a small line in the center. So this is just a small tip so that you're able to contrast on the colors as well. Solid shirts paired well with pinstripe trousers. So the logic is very simple, let me tell you, and it'll help you. Pattern trouser, you don't wear a pattern shirt. Similarly, on a plain, you can wear a plain or a solid shirt. On a solid trouser, you can wear a solid shirt. But on a pinstripe, you don't wear a pinstripe shirt. It looks odd, right? So when you're making a contrast, that's where you make a contrast. If you're wearing a pinstripe trouser, remember to wear a plain shirt. Whereas if you're wearing a plain trouser, you can wear a pinstripe shirt. That's a contrast that you can maintain. But pinstripe with pinstripe, you don't. If I take you to a completely personal landscape, to Goa once again, yes, Goa is one of my favorites. So if you notice the Goan, the loud shirts, you will never see a person wearing the floral shirt and a floral shorts. It'll be a plain shorts with a floral shirt, or it'll be a floral shorts or a Bermuda and a plain t-shirt. That's how you maintain the contrast. You never have the same pattern top to bottom. It looks a little funny and it looks a little too much to the eyes. So the contrast is always played in creating a balance. It's a homogeneous look that you want to create, and you want to create a balance. And that's how you create that balance. Always wear a dark shirt with light trouser or vice versa. I'm so sorry about this. And why am I apologetic about this is because the point that I want to mention here is the darker garment should be on the bottom and the lighter garment should be on the top. I'm wearing a white shirt on the top and I'm wearing a black trouser on the bottom. This has been done so that your eyes always travel to the lighter contrast. Humanly, our eyes always travel to the lighter part. If I wear a white trouser and if I wear a maroon shirt or a black shirt, your eyes will travel to the lighter, which is to the trouser. And would you like people looking down and talking to you? Not really. So if you're wearing beige trouser, never wear it with a dark shirt. In fact, team it with pastels. Team it with a cream, team it with a pastel green, with a light blue. because that's how you're able to create a balance. If you wear a darker garment on the top, your eyes will travel to the lighter garment, which is on the bottom. And like I said, we always want people to maintain eye contact while we are talking to them. Pattern shirts must be, like I said, worn with a solid shirt. So just some examples. Can you look at here? There are dark trousers and they have all been teamed with lighter garments on the top. That is how we maintain the contrast. If you reverse the color of the shirt and make it to the color of the trouser, you would notice that your eyes will start looking down. The first, Palab, just give me a second and I'll go back to the previous slide. Preetham and Palab, just give me a second. So if you look at the first image here, the light blue one, this is called as a monochromatic color combination. What is monochromatic? The colors in the same family. So dark blue, light blue, the variants of blue is called as monochromatic. Similarly, variants of green, variants of pink, they'll be called as monochromatic. Achromatic is black and white. Why monochromatic? Again, if you want to look slimmer, if you want to look taller, wearing a color combination like the first image or the second image will make you look taller. Why? Because there is no break in contrast. My eyes will flow right through without a break in the color contrast. So they'll give an illusion of length. And yes, you look a little slimmer as well. So let me go back to the previous slide. Okay, Preetham is saying that I'm going a little bit fast. I'm sorry, I think it's the time that I'm looking at. It's already 11:30. So I had to cover a little bit more, but probably that's where my speed came in. So going back to the previous slide, Palab and Preetham. And I'll definitely go a little bit slower also. Any questions? Like I said, please park it on the Q&A. I can see some 7 questions already parked there. And quickly give me a thumbs up if you're good with this particular slide. Okay. Thank you, Palab. Preetham, I'm assuming that, okay. Thank you, Nishant. All right. I hope it's got clarified right here. So we're talking about dark trousers and teaming it up with a lighter shirt, right? Okay, so we are extending the session. Like I said, I was covering too fast. So let me go a little bit slower so that I do justice to the topic as well as to all your questions. So I'm really sorry about taking a little bit more time to cover the rest of the topics. The after class, we will definitely, probably spend a little less time. All right. Okay, so let me extend the time. I know it's Sunday. I'm sorry about taking more time, but like I said, it's an interesting topic. And thank you, Preetham, for saying it's interesting. So I'll cover it. Giving you a complete contrast of the previous slide. Notice this was dark and light combination. Now, please honestly tell me, where is your eyes going? Are you looking at the shirt? Are you looking at the trouser? Please don't say that you're looking at the shirt. Okay. Mehul, I'll definitely come to that. You're looking at the trouser, Preetham. Thank you. Debashish too says trouser. Of course, shirt says Sudarshan. Okay. Dark shirts over light is avoidable totally. Thank you, Palab. All of you for saying that your eyes are going towards, and believe me, I have not done anything to your eyes. That's humanly how we look at it. You know, if I show you my hand, how much ever the shirt is white, your eyes will go to my skin because my skin is lighter than the color of the garment. So that's where our eyes travel towards. Our eyes will always travel towards the lighter contrast. So if you look at any of these garments, that's something which is completely avoidable. And thank you for saying so. So Nishant, even informally, again, like I said, even if I'm meeting my friends or my peers, why would I like them to completely keep looking down and talking to me? I would love all of them to look up on my face level, make an eye contact and talk. So from today onwards, like I said, I'm training your eyes to be able to pick up the right garment and notice people around. So like Palab said, whether it is about the news anchors or people whom you're meeting, from today onwards, please pay attention to where your eyes are traveling when you look at other people's dressing sense or your own for that matter. Start with yourself and then, you know, you could start looking at others as well. So whether it is informally or formally, with a beige trouser, like this gentleman is wearing in the second image, like you can see, with the beige trouser, he should have probably teamed up with a lighter pastel color, a cream, a lemon, a pista. These are colors which would have looked awesome and complemented his entire look. With gray again, a white, a cream, these are colors which will go further. With a white, again, something which is completely pastel. One of you asked me about what is achromatic. The last image is achromatic. Anything black and white, simple. Black and white combination is called as achromatic, and the same color family is called as monochromatic. Blues, variants of blue. Remember way back in school, our color teacher used to tell us to mix a white in the basic color. The shade used to change. She used to ask us to mix gray, the shade used to change once again. And the moment she used to ask us to mix black in the basic color, the primary color, the shade used to change again. So when we're talking about monochromatic, it is basically the tint, tone, and shade of the same color. The moment you mix white, it becomes lighter. The moment you mix gray in that color, it becomes a more shade darker, and black means more shade darker. I know I'm going to take a couple of hours if I keep on elaborating so much, but like I told you, this is a topic very close to my heart. So probably that's why I'm digressing so much, though not my intent. Okay, this is coming very, very normally. So this kind of dressing is good for evening and casual meetings. Palib, right? And with the footwear, you can play. A slight disadvantage that men have over women. Okay, so not being gender bias here, but women have a lot of advantage of getting the color up once again. So for example, I can wear something in my ears and I can draw your attention. I can wear a bindi, I can draw an attention. Men don't have so many advantages apart from a tie or a pocket square or probably a tie pin, spectacles. So accessorize, men do not have so many variants as women have. So even if women wear a combination which is a lighter kurta and a darker shirt, they can draw the attention further up by wearing a lighter bindi. Men, on the other hand, like I said, do not have so many other advantages. So what you can play around is with the color of the trouser and the color of the shirt. Some of us do not wear ties. So hence that accessory also gets completely off. So try to play around with these colors, right? Mehul, very nice. I'll come back to the books as well. And lots of websites available for me to share with you to tell about the dressing. But right here at the Work Better Club, on our dashboard, we have a lot of study material that we will be sharing with you on dressing and grooming specifically for men. So you really don't have to look beyond that. And you could be getting all that information on the dashboard of Work Better Club itself. Pallav says men's grooming is conservative as compared to women. Yes, I'll have to acknowledge that and no debate on that further. Some examples for patterned shirts over solid shirts. Like I said, don't wear patterned over pattern. Can you see if I would have worn a check trouser and a check shirt, I'll really look funny. Similarly, if I would have worn a pinstripes over a pinstripe shirt, weird again. There is something called as a pinstripe and there's something called as box stripes. So the center image is pinstripe when there are, the thinner stripes. Can you look at the last image? That is box stripes or chalk stripes. Chalk. Chalk is where the space is larger and the stripes are a little bit more thicker. If you're slimmer, if you want to give a slimmer image, then wear pinstripes. If you are too thin or lean and you want to give a little bit of a healthy image, I suggest wearing chalk stripes and not pinstripes because you look further leaner, right? So you can give the illusion. Checks, recommended or not, smaller checks are more recommended as compared to big checks. So again, if you are slimmer, you want to look a little bit more healthy, you could wear a relatively more bigger in terms of checks. If you're already a little healthy, if you want to avoid checks completely, in fact, come to pinstripes or solid colors, right? A small tip once again. Can you look at this particular image? Please quickly tell me. Don't read what is written on the slide. Quickly tell me where is your image wearing a right combination, but I'm still asking you, where is your eyes going to? I can see a little bit of a network glitch. Please tell me immediately if there's any disturbance in my voice. So all of you can, okay, Debashi says nowhere. Satish says legs. Okay, no socks. Pallav, absolutely. So can you see your eyes immediately caught that? Shifa says checks. Nishant again says shoes. Preetham says network problem, and I agree because I saw that myself. Please let me know if you're able to hear me. Okay. So again, when going for a lighter check or a pattern shirt, make sure your lower garment, which is your trouser, is a little bit more darker. Shoes, you can notice, I'll quickly come to the shoes section and I'll quickly take away through all. But shoes, if you can notice the way he's wearing the tan shoes, and of course, these are loafers. I am assuming he's wearing loafer socks. That's the, can you see the break of this trouser, the length of this trouser? It is meant to be this way because probably he's in the creative field and he's wearing a shorter trouser. Remember, appropriate, it has to be appropriate as per your organization and surroundings as well. Working in a creative marketing domain, this kind of an attire is perfect. Working in a consultancy, financial, banking, IT, not IT, sorry, financial, something which is more serious in terms of their kind of discipline, probably this kind of an attire would be a little misfit. This particular image that I'm showing you here lacks contrast. It is the same color if you notice. Yes, Saksham, absolutely. The trousers are folded too, is what you saw in the previous one. The length of the trouser is perfect. The fit is okay. The only thing missing here is that he's not looking something which is really, starkly standing out because there is no contrast. It's the same family tone color, is from the same family. I think it's olive, if I'm a little bit not colorblind. I think it's olive or brown, probably the same family. So he's not having a contrast, and because of which, looking a little duller. Nevertheless, my attention, I think I can all his point of view. If the intent is that I look at his face, he's bang on. I'm able to do that because I'm not lost me. Okay. Is my voice back again? Are you able to hear me now? Oops. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I had lost Pallab's. Such a dressing is often effective as a person might look at your face. Pallab, that's exactly what I said. So, depending on the occasion, now, for example, you have a very big town hall that you are probably the moderator. Apart from just the face, you would like to be presentable, you would like to be standing out. So, depending on the occasion, please feel free to be able to do that, right? And uh, there's nothing offensive about this particular garment otherwise at all. So depending on the occasion. So some typical combinations given to you right here on this slide, what you can match with, just a quick, you know, look you can have on this particular combinations. I'm not elaborating because I know most of you would be doing that in your wardrobe. The idea is that when you are going and picking up garments for yourself, yes, of course. Try to make sure that the combination is what you need to keep in mind, what you need to wear with beige versus with darker colors. Quickly coming to the accessories. I'm trying not to go too fast, but I know that today is Sunday for all of you. So I hope I can take a little bit more time. I apologize for that, but I have a little bit more person to share. Okay, Pratyush wants to see the last slide. Yes, Pratyush. Pratyush, can I go ahead? So just a little bit, yes. Hemant, you noticed us very well here. So what we are talking about here, Pratyush, is that the lighter colors of these garments is what you need to wear, right? Not the darker ones. Shorts are darker. Which one are you referring to, Mr. Muthukumar? Okay, these are all trousers. These are not shorts, but you're right in what you're saying is that they are lighter color shirts. So the point that I'm trying to make here and give you this particular slide is just to pick up some options, but make sure that the garments that you're picking up and coinciding should be the lighter variants. Remember, I told you about the tint, tone, and shade. So yes, this was probably the darker versions here, but I will request you to please pick up just the lighter color. So if it is navy blue given with cream, it should be the lightest color, the pastel color of blue or of pink or of sea green. That is what should be. Definitely drop off black, anything which is darker. My apologies. Drop off all the darker variants from the lighter garments if you're wearing under the trousers section. And thank you, Pratyush, and thank you for noticing that, Mr. Muthukumar. Is that okay to move ahead now? And quickly move on to the belts and the accessories section? Okay, so I'm taking that as a yes. Pratyush and Mr. Muthukumar, is that okay? Hemant, you're absolutely right in noticing that. So apologize for the colors mentioned there. So quickly moving on to the belts. A very quick note again, the belt should be matching with your shoes. That's the simple old school rule, and we still carry that same guidelines even today when we are dressing up professionally or in a social scape. The width of the belt, the width of the belt should be about a size of half of your index finger. This is my index finger. The width of the belt should be half of the size of the index finger. Again, like I said, I can go on for hours about it. Your body type, your body shape also has a relevance on the belt width. For example, if I'm too healthy and if I'm wearing a very thin belt, it'll be a mismatch. It'll be a too much of a contrast, and the person's, the viewer whom you're talking to, his eyes will go to the belt, because if my body is healthy, if I'm wearing a thin belt, it's not creating that balance. Similarly, if you're too thin and lean, and if you're wearing a very thick belt, it's a complete contrast and it'll be a mismatch. So maintain the balance between your body weight and the width of the belt as well. It should be matching your body type, not just it's in style or it's in vogue. The color of the belts, if you notice, is black and tan, which are more recommended for official wear. Greens, blues, burgundies, well, all that is good for your informal or your personal scale. When you look at the buckle of the belt, it should be minimalistic. When we say minimalistic, jaguar, skull, leopard, all that should be completely avoided in a professional sphere. That's okay in the personal sphere. Choosing the right tie, solid, when you look at a tie, it should be, again, be a contrast to the shirt color. So a very simple rule, once again, if it is a solid color tie, I wear a contrasting color tie. I can even wear a pattern on a plain shirt, and I can wear a plain tie on a plain shirt. That's the logic again for ties. Okay, Preetham wants to go back once again. Yes, Preetham. If you're picking up a question, Preetham, quickly park that in the Q&A section. Let's go let's go berserk with the tie. Okay. All right, Pallab. Okay, so when we're talking about the right tie, like I said, the contrast is maintained through the tie once again. If you can notice in the image, it's a plain shirt, a duller color, and the tie is which is contrasting. Again, telling you the point that with men, we have less accessories. So tie is a beautiful accessory where you can play with colors and you can get the attention up. Remember, the knot is right on your neck. So the color of the tie will make the eye look upwards towards your face to the person whom you're talking to. Wearing a contrast will help. Can you notice right in this particular slide? A solid on a pattern or a pattern on a solid. What it means is A solid color shirt, it's probably, there's some pinstripes which are completely diagonal, and you can see a nice patterned tie on that, which is completely contrasting, and that is the contrast that you're making. If it was the same dull color shirt and that was the color of the tie, there would have been no contrast altogether. Look at the other shirt once again. Maybe the knot is not tied up exactly to your favor, but the color is what I'm trying to get your attention here, right? So make sure that we are talking about maintaining a contrast even in the colors, right? Yes, Palab, absolutely right. In terms of designs and colors, you maintain a contrast between the tie and the shirt. It does not have to blend in with the color of the shirt. You will not be able to see it at all. So choose the right pattern when you're picking up ties. For example, if you're wearing a pinstripe shirt, your tie should not have pinstripe. It can have diagonal stripes, but don't pick up the same pattern of the shirt on the tie. It should be contrasting, right? So can I wear pattern tie over a pattern shirt? Yes, you can, but look at how subtle it is. Can you notice the tie and the shirt? Yes, if there are pinstripes, the first image, very light blue pinstripes, there is a contrasting tie on it, but this contrast is not too stark. Similarly, the second one, the pattern is very dull, and similarly, that is the pattern of the tie as well. So notice some examples given to you here, right here on this particular slide as well. You also have a pocket square, which you can use for drawing on the attention. Does the pocket square have to be of the same, texture and material of the tie? Not really. But if you can pick up at least one color from either the shirt or the tie of the pocket square, that is something which would be recommended. You can change the complete official look and make it a party look by just popping in a color in the pocket square. So this is one more accessory that you can add on, and that can completely change the look from an office to a party wear. So giving you some more examples right here. This is what I was talking about. Can you look here in the first image? So you have pinstripes, and the pattern of on the tie is completely diagonal. It's not straight. So that is what we are talking about. And if you look at the second one on the check, there is again a pattern. Now, is this something which is recommended for a banker or for a consultant? You will have to look at your working space and decide on making two stark as a combination. Now notice the third one. It is a checkered shirt, and he's mapped it and blended it with a plain tie. This is something which is definitely going well because it's a solid tie on a patterned shirt. Now, if I would have worn a check tie, completely mismatched once again. Coming to quickly to the length of the tie, I think all of us would know that. I'm quickly reiterating that. The center image is the appropriate one. It should neither be shorter, smaller, and nor should it be longer than the touching the buckle of the belt. Can you see here? This is the buckle of the belt. The tip of the tie should be just touching the buckle of the belt. It should not be shorter like the first one, and should not be definitely going beyond the belt or the buckle. That's how you adjust the length of the tie. That's how you do that. Okay, so I hope you're parking the questions on the Q&A section, because I'm moving on to the shoes and the socks. Shoes, once again, we are only talking about formal wear here, so hence we're restricting to the formal shoes. Black, brown, and burgundy is more recommended rather than wearing loafers or probably even sneakers, or there are some shoes which come with a buckle on the side. The name of those shoes are called as old monk. So that is something avoidable, because sometimes when you walk, the buckles start hitting on the shoe and they make a clinking sound. So try to avoid that. Heel of the shoe, I'm talking about the sole, should not be too big, too small. So 1.5 inch is perfect, not something which is more than that. Yes, Utkarsh, the recording would be available, as well as the PPT would be available on the dashboard as well. So nothing to worry about, and you would not be missing anything. Okay, so that was about the formal shoes. Like I mentioned, the three colors which are more recommended are black, tan, and burgundy. Coming out with the combinations as to what is recommended with suits, you would notice that with blue, you could wear all the three colors, that is black, blue, and tan. With gray, again, you can notice all the three are recommended. Coming to charcoal gray, more than the black and the Oxford, tan is probably not recommended. Again, with brown and with black, the variance tend to reduce in terms of the combination of the shoe. Mehul is saying, if you attend seminars, our shoes hurt. Can you recommend different shoes which are softer on heels and feet in general? When I'm talking about shoes in a professional wear, Mehul, can you park this question in the Q&A? I'll answer it there. All right? Thank you. And I'll give you a quick recommendation on that. Okay. Quickly coming on the socks. If you want to give an illusion of the height, same color socks as the color of your trouser and the shoe. Now, you may feel that how can I do that, Shaina? Well, the darker the color, the better it is. So dark blue, gray, black, these three colors are more recommended for socks as compared to white. I don't think I have to elaborate now that why you should not be wearing a white color socks. Where will your eyes go to? Socks. And I don't think any one of us would want anybody who's talking to us to keep looking at the socks while they're talking to you. So totally white socks are completely off. And I hope I've been able to tell you the science behind it in terms of where your eyes travel. So make sure that you're not wearing loafer socks with the formal shoes, because of course it should cover your ankles so that when you sit, your skin should not be visible. Similarly, there are a lot of socks today available in the market which have those happy faces. Please avoid that, because those smiley faces on your feet will be again attracting the wrong attention, right? So try to avoid those. Something, the elastic, when it starts wearing off, you will notice how it starts plunging downwards. So please try to avoid that again. Say to all of you who are raising your hands, please put in your message on the chat box, because I'm regularly looking at that as well while I'm talking to you. And like I said, match your socks with your shoes as well as your trousers. Should not be too contrasting. We're coming to the suit section. And just the way I'm wearing a coat today, the reason why I'm wearing a coat is for one simple reason, and let me share that. Wearing a layer over a garment increases your confidence, makes you feel more authoritative, and makes you give an impression to the other person that yes, she's more credible. Believe me or not, that's how you feel when you wear a layer. A layer could be a tie, a layer could be, like I said, a coat, or a layer could be anything that you're wearing over the shirt is called as a layer. With men, again, a layer could be restricted to just a tie or a coat and a pocket square, because you do not have too many variants. Three colors which are top in authority, which make you look authoritative as well as credible, are black, dark blue, and charcoal gray. Why am I not wearing it? Because I didn't want to look authoritative, as simple as that. However, at the same time, if I was probably doing a presentation to a client for a proposal or for a particular presentation, I would have worn one of these three colors. Today, for this session, I didn't want to come across intimidating or authoritative. Hence, I've played with the color. I'm wearing a maroon coat, which is probably definitely lower in authoritative. Yet again, it is making me feel confident because I'm wearing a coat instead of just a shirt or a top. So the moment you have to make an impression, now that you're sitting at home, you have the luxury of picking up a coat and wearing it immediately, because otherwise I know how much traveling will take too much time. So make sure that if you're making a very high value presentation to a stakeholder whom it makes a lot of difference, add on a layer. Believe me, it will boost your confidence and take it further up, right? So a well-fitted shoulder, same logic as the shirt, no changing on that. This is the lapel. Can you see this? From the collar, which is going down, this is a lapel. Can you see the width of the lapel? I hope all of you can see the width of the lapel. It's not too broad. Remember older times, our grandfathers and fathers, the lapels used to be broader. Now the lapels the width has reduced, and so has the tie width. the tie width and the lapel width should match. Earlier, the ties used to also be broad and the lapels used to be broad. Now the lapels have reduced and so have the ties. So please maintain the balance, right? This is the lapel, Preetham. Can you see from the collar what is going down till almost till the button is the lapel. So this lapel should be the width nowadays in current day's trend. The width has reduced as compared to what our fathers and our great grandfathers used to wear, and even the width of the ties have reduced. So make sure that you're not wearing a very broad tie of the previous generation with the current coat lapel width. That's the point that I wanted to make. And when we're talking about the fit of the suits, double button is the two button is what is more recommended in an official wear. Single button is what is recommended in a casual wear, right? Keeping the buttons open when you are sitting down, and make sure, or it's not something which is as a rule that you need to always keep the buttons closed when you're standing, but while you're sitting down, make sure that you open the buttons and you sit down. Even when you're standing, you can only put on the first button rather than buttoning both of them. Just some simple rules. Of course, if you are buttoning your shirt, the coat, and if there are too many lines coming on the side, you know that the coat is way too tight. So make sure that you open the button, or definitely when you've given the measurements, keep that in mind as well. The length of the sleeves or the shoulder of the coat. Remember, just half an inch of your shirt sleeve should be peeping out of the sleeves or the coat suit. That is what the guidelines, or can I say the old school checklist says. And this is just a small guideline. This is not something which is very, very starkly written, but yes, it is something which is half an inch of your shirt should be peeping out of the shoulder of your suit. That is something which you should be wearing. If you're wearing cufflinks, again, it's not that the entire cuff should be shown. By the way, cufflinks is another accessory that men have. So you can actually play with different cuffs when you're wearing shirts with cufflinks again, right? So that is a good fit which is recommended. When we're talking about the length of the suit, can you see the first image? So where your fingers are starting. So when you stand straight, your length of your coat should be touching this particular part of your hand when you're standing in front and you're measuring the length of the coat. If they are only touching your wrist, that means it's too short. If they're going beyond your hand, that means the length of the coat is too long. So that's why I'm not giving measurements, because all of us have a different height. So when you're giving the measurement of your coat, or when you're trying a ready-made coat, make sure that you put your hand straight and see whether the length of the coat is touching where your fingers are starting or not. That's how you're able to see the good fit, right? Okay, so a perfect fit when we're talking about the jacket and the collar is, once again, when we are talking about the jackets, when we're talking about the perfect fit, we're talking about the fact that there should not be multiple folds coming in your collar area when you're wearing a particular coat. So that's how you're able to check whether the jacket collar is perfect or not. It should be setting in smoothly and falling on your shoulders smoothly, and there should not be multiple folds which are coming, or the fact that it should be way too tight, right? That's how you're able to judge on the collar area. Some tips to remember while putting on your suit: remember the three colors that I have already shared with you: black, blue, and charcoal gray. So if you are making a presentation, if you are wanting to make a first impression, a positive one, remember that you could actually do that by wearing these three colors. That will further enhance your lookability. So these are the three colors that will help you. And matching a dark colored suit with neutral shirt and dark colored tie is something which is recommended further. Consider the lighter and the pastel color combination that I told you, just the way I said, and what you can see in the image. white is in the center, your eyes are going to the white shirt because the darker garment is covering it. So if you're a little healthy, wear a darker coat and wear the lighter shirt inside so that the attention of the other people who are looking at you falls right in the center, the way you're able to see it in terms of what I'm wearing again, right? So avoid wearing a pattern suit with a pattern shirt. It's the same logic which I mentioned to you about the trousers and the shirt as well. Some more tips: ensure your shirt collar is always tucked inside. Please don't keep your shirt collar outside. It's more professional when you keep it inside. And of course, like I mentioned, your shoe color should be complementing the color of the suit. If you remember, I showed you the three colors. We're talking about the black, tan, and burgundy. How you can match it with different suit colors. With a black suit, of course, a black shoes is what is more recommended. And always remember your belt and the shoe color should match again, right? So these are some tips that you can remember. The pocket square, like I said, further enhances. We can definitely create a different look completely from a morning to an evening wear by just changing probably the pattern of the tie, the color of the tie, and the color of the pocket square. If you look at any of the top CEOs, if I look at Bill Gates, if I look at Jeff Bezos, notice they always wear a black suit. Specifically, if I'm looking at a Bill Gates, and he'll be